Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to my channel. My name is Sandeep Patel. Today I'm going to teach you about how what the chess, the pieces in chess, and what are the pieces of chess, and first we'll start up with the pawn. Let's see. I'll put the white pawn here, um, black pawn here. Yeah, put this black king here, and the white king here. So let's load the position. So here is white to move. So a pawn can move two squares ahead in the first move, but later it can't do that anymore. But if you decide to move it one square ahead, then you still can't move it two squares ahead later in the game. You can only and after you move it two squares ahead or one, then you can only let's see. I'll just take away these arrows. Okay. So then once you've decided to move it one square ahead or two squares ahead, then you can only move the pawn one square ahead for the rest of the game. But if, for example, the black king, by the way, kings move one square ahead and one square in every direction. Any one square in any direction. So let's say if the king moves here, then I push e5, and it goes here. Then here, I can take this black pawn diagonally, but you said that it can only move ahead one square ahead later in the game after you have moved two squares ahead or one square whatever. Yeah, that's true, but pawns capture one square diagonally. Oh yeah, they can capture back. Obviously, pawns cannot go back. So yeah, so you could take here. The best move was e pawn here to this to this square, but so anyways, um, let's say if I push the pawn all the way to the other side of the board. Here, I'll do this later. Um, yeah. So here now we'll talk about how the bishops move. The bishops move diagonally. So I can show you. So the bishops could move here, and his blacks move, let's say he's here. Then here, here. It can move diagonally. You see these dots? Yeah, those are the legal moves. So the dots show that these squares, sorry, these squares are the legal moves. So um, as you can see, bishops move diagonally. Nothing else I have to say about it. They also capture diagonally, but then not like a pawn, one square, but they can go all the way to the other side of the board, and they can also capture back, and they can move back. So yeah, now we'll go to the now we'll go to the knight. So for the knight, I um so let's load the position here. The knight. Let's say this is a river. The knight is on this small island. The knight can not jump into the water. They can only go on other on the squares over it. But it also can't let's say move two squares ahead. So this is how the knight moves. It moves two squares ahead and then one square left or one square right. So these are the moves for the knight. Showing you. It goes a move back and right and then one square up and down. So I'll show you an example. For example, look at this. This draw arrows is the river, and the knight is jumping over it. So now it's black's turn. Let's say it goes here. Then the knight can go here, giving a check. I'll talk about that later in another. Yeah, I'll talk about that later. Yeah. So as you can see, the knight could just move like an L shape, let's say. So now we'll move on to the rook. Hold on. Yeah. So rook moves vertically and horizontally like this. So it's actually like the opposite of a bishop because a bishop moves diagonally, but a rook also moves horizontally and vertically. Oh yeah, about the knight, it also captures just in the L shape, and same with the rook. And the king also captures the same way. Like the king just can capture what is in its, let's say, what's in the area that it controls. As you can see, this red this square, this square, this square, and this square, and this square is the area that it controls, and these squares. This is what I mean with the control area. Anyways, now let's move on um to the queen. The queen, people say, it is actually the strongest piece on the board. I'll yeah. So the queen can moves like a rook. Look at this. These yellow arrows are the is like the is a rook and a bishop. Wait, hold on. And a bishop combined. So that's why it's very strong piece. But keep in mind, it does not move like a knight. No, it doesn't. Um, because that isn't no. So it only moves like a bishop and a rook. So to give you an example, let's say the queen moves here, the king moves here. This is how the queen moves. And go all the way to the other side of the board. Also horizontally like this. Yeah. Now we have covered all the pieces. Now we'll move on to the special moves, such as don't have to memorize these moves, but let's say this. this, 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 and then I castle. Wait, yeah. So here the king can move 2 squares. But wait a minute, you just said that the king can only move 1 square in every direction, except over the board. Obviously, that's not possible for every piece. So why is this allowed? This move is called castling. So if um, you can only castling is a move to bring your king to safety. So safe from all the other pieces that are in the center. Um, so so these are the main like rules for castling. Like you're only allowed to castle if you haven't moved your king. If your king has moved like one time in a game, let's say king e2, you're not allowed to castle anymore. Like uh you could yeah, and if you move it back you still can't castle because you move your king. So we go back, yeah, here. So and the rook which you're planning to castle with is not allowed to move. Otherwise, you can castle with that rook. So, and if opponent's piece has control over a spot where your king or rook will go on after you've castled, then you're also not allowed to castle. For example, I will give an example. Let's see. We're doing something random. Here you can castle because look at this. This bishop has control over the spot. But don't pay attention to this. Just um because the king will go over there later. And let's say if I play this, this, this. Now you block this bishop from coming in, but this queen is still here. You see, this queen has control over this square because later if you castle, for example here, now you see that the rook would go on this square. But here that's you now you can do it because your rook will land on the square. So and the same thing applies with hold on, don't pay attention to me. Just fast. Yeah. So you can also choose to long castle or to yeah, to long castle. Same rules apply. The only difference actually is that the king, the rook actually moves 3 squares next so that it can come next to the king, except for 2 squares. Oh yeah, so I've seen many people, like at my chess club, I've seen some people, they castle like this. They moved their king 3 squares and the rook right next to it. Well, this if like you might forget, but actually this is just simple way. Like the king, you're supposed to memorize this. Okay, your king can move 2 squares left or right, but the rook has to go over the king and to the square right next to it. Same thing with short castling. So yeah, that is. See, the rook jumped from here to. Oh yeah, before I forget, the knight can jump over pieces. For example, Here, the knight can just go here. It can jump over pieces, also over its own piece. Also very important to know. Now we look at en passant. I don't know how to pronounce it. So that, for example, here, if black moves this pawn on this square to this square, then uh, then you could just take like this. Might be like, wait a minute, but this pawn isn't on this square; it's on that square. This one. You see, how do you take? This is a special move. Here you can already see the eye. Yeah, okay, I'll just read this. En passant is a special pawn move by which a pawn captures another pawn that has advanced two squares. That's really, yeah. So, if a pawn advances two squares ahead, like moves two squares ahead, and it lands right next to your opponent's pawn, then your opponent can take the pawn like that, yeah. And then this pawn just is taken. But but let's say you wait for a move like this doesn't work. This now you lost your you lost your opportunity to capture a pawn like that. So yeah, that actually is the only thing that I needed to say. This doesn't work. For example, this, this, this. You can't capture because it didn't advance two time, two squares ahead. It you can't take it like that. It'll have to do it in one move like this. It can't do like this and like this, like move one square each time. So yeah, now you guys have learned the way the chess pieces move and there's some special moves. Make sure to like and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next video.